The 1950s were an awesome time for music. And when rock and roll crossed paths with television, it blew the doors off of post-war America and changed everything it touched. These artists built a foundation of modern music, and you can still hear the influence on artists 70 years later. Elvis, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, and more. But the story isn't all sock hops and poodle skirts. The history of rock and roll also contains stories of tragedies, scandal, and racism that ended this early era as quickly as it started. On today's episode of Prisoners of Rock and Roll, we're taking a look at the beginning of rock music in the 1950s.
O'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on, join me home. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, rock, rock till broad daylight. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. When the clock strikes 2.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Prisoners of Rock and Roll, episode number 41. I'm Bruce Kramer, and I'm just 1/3 of the brilliance and entertainment you are about to receive for the next 2 hours, because I am here tonight with my two friends and co-hosts, Ryan McCusker and Doug McCusker.
Are you rocking?
Wop, babaloo, wop, wop, bam, boom. Prisoners of Rock and Roll is sponsored by McCusker's Tavern at 17th and Shunk Streets in Philadelphia, and our show is part of the Pantheon Podcast Network. I'm really excited to do this show.
Absolutely. This is like one of my favorite parts of music.
I remember,
beginning of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in the little bio we have over you on our website. You like the stuff at the beginning. I love this era.
Yeah,
I could tell, Bruce, you got the leather jacket on, you got the slick back
the
hair.
the greaser hair.
Yeah, you
and
got the
white
cigarettes,
t-shirt.
the cigarettes rolled up in your t-shirt.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's not a switchblade. It's actually a comb.
Oh,
so,
well. Yeah.
Hey. But I can shank a motherfucker with it if I have to. So yeah, man, this is where it all started, and we already, we've talked about a lot of these artists already. We did a whole episode on Sun Records, which is one of our better episodes, and I feel like it doesn't get enough love.
Yeah,
and,
definitely check that one out, guys.
It was really good. I think it was the first one where we played music too, and I think it was I really enjoyed that episode. But today Ryan suggested let's talk about the music of the 50s, and we'll do the whole decade.
I think the innocence of the 50s showed off in the music. I think rock and roll was innocent at that time. I mean, you had people singing shake, rattle, and roll, and a whole lot of shaking going on, and, a lot of things that are shaken in the 50s.
So like the cultural awareness. I think I talked about that before. Like,
See, that's a really good point you bring up. Like cultural awareness of everything, meaning like how Ryan said, like the innocence of the 50s, the way they portrayed it, like through the media and through television and all that. Like it seemed like good old wholesome America,
dude. The
but
50s look awesome.
I know, but I don't think people were still like you look at movies like Grease, they're talking about gangbangs and like whatever.
They're teenagers.
Yeah, but they're like but the innocence that they try to market of what it was, I think it was far from it.
I think the 50s are awesome if you're a suburban white dude.
Sure.
Yeah, like the
Richie Cunningham.
One of the things like I learned a lot doing the research for this episode was how shitty black artists were treated.
Sure. Absolutely.
They were treated with the back door, man.
Yeah, I just really
Absolutely.
bad. Like even with rock and roll, just learning how crappy some of the stuff was. And I've got some, a couple examples through all the notes that we talked about. But yeah, man, the world is like the war's over. Everybody comes home. Everybody's horny.
Is this what they call the baby boomers?
Yeah. So everyone came home, started cranking out kids. Everybody's moving in the suburbs. They're building the highway system. The interstates are all getting built.
The nuclear family is kind of starting.
The nuclear family is starting. Television has started. Unemployment is really low. He said, I didn't get too much into the economy, but they said
pretty good.
The country's gross national product doubled from 45 to 1960. So we come out of the Depression, go into the war, and just
everything's booming.
Off we go, right? We just the way the economy ramped up all the war production just never looks back.
Sure.
It seems like you look back on your grandparents and they had one job between the two of them, and they can have a life. They could have a house, they could pay their bills, they could take care of their kids by one income. Now forget about it. You can't have a family with just one income.
Sure. Kids like the automobile becomes much more popular. Sure. Everybody's getting a car. I said like television is starting. Movies are becoming a big deal. And rock and roll starts. It's just, and I guess rock probably really was more in the mid to late 50s than the early 50s, I think.
I don't know.
53, 54, maybe?
We talked about the first rock and roll song before.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point, and I'm probably wrong. That because the first rock and roll song was, well, most people. I think if you ask most people what's the first rock and roll song, they're going to say "Rock Around the Clock" by Bill Haley that we just played.
Yeah,
but it's not. Right?
No way.
We talked about it in the Sun Records episode. That the first rock and roll song was in '51, was by Ike Turner and Jackie Branson. Rocket 88, which is just it's a great song.
Yeah,
I still think it sounds great.
Yeah. It has to do with the story with the amplifier falling off the back of the truck, and that's how they invented distortion and all that. Where this distortion was discovered.
Yeah, I mean, at first, Ike Turner was the lead singer of the band, and Sam Phillips was like, "We're not going to record you because you cannot sing." Mm-hmm. He wrote this song, so the guy next to him could sing, and they put him on the record.
Yeah, it was the story like they were driving to Memphis to do the recording. If I remember from the Sun Records episode, they stopped and saw like B.B. King live.
Right.
And B.B. King was like, "You guys got to cut a record." And they're like, "Cool." No idea how to do that. Right. He's like, "Well, go see my guy. Go see Sam Phillips." And as they were driving, the amp like fell out of the car and it broke, and Sam Phillips like stuffed a brown paper bag in it or something, and that's where you get that kind of fuzzy sound. I'll play a little bit of it, dude. It's an awesome song. It's an awesome song.
Women have heard of jalopies, you've heard the noise they make, but let me introduce my new Rocket 88. Yes, it's straight, just one way. Everybody likes my Rocket 88. Baby, we'll ride in style, moving on.
That fuzz, dude. I know we're kind of retracting. We're like going backwards in episodes, but like, dude, it's awesome.
It's clear as day.
And I love it that it's like that's the fuzz in "Can't Get No Satisfaction" by the Stones or "All Day All Night" by the Kinks. It's like that's where it came from.
And it's like people are like how'd you get that sound? People are like smashing their amplifiers like after this.
Right, yeah. One of the guys you said like one of the episodes we talked about a musician who was like would slice his amplifier to get that sound.
A lot of people would poke holes
to get a real
fuzz sound out of it.
And shit just happened by accident. It's just I love that kind of those stories in music.
Yeah, besides just the guitar in there, the piano's just it's like a hurricane coming through, and the drums and the backbeat and everything about the song.
That's a great point too. Like the piano, like the piano is much more prevalent in rock and roll at this point.
It's like a main featured instrument.
Right? Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Because you look back, that's like a main instrument. Like the guitar is the guitar, like, but it was never like you had like classical guitar, things like that going on. But you didn't like not of like today or even this, and like even like 5 years from this recording, how the guitar is used. Like the piano is like the big instrument.
Yeah, but look what Little Richard did with the piano.
Sure.
Yeah. What were they using the piano before, like Little Richard?
They probably
gospel, in church. Nobody ever made a piano sound like the way Little Richard made it.
Yeah. And he pretty much got that all from church, like his whole sound. And I think we talked about that before.
Yeah, we've got a whole section on him, but yeah, dude, the piano is more prevalent. The rise of the guitar, that's probably another thing that happens in the 50s. Mm-hmm. Rock and roll, guitars, the electric guitar gets invented and becomes more
a featured instrument.
Yeah, it becomes it's affordable. People are buying it and all that kind of stuff.
You can stand up behind a microphone stand and play it and be like a front man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a saxophone was a big... Sure. Before there was guitar solos, it was all saxophone solos.
And that's a good point. Like with this genre of music, the saxophone is used a lot.
Yeah. And maybe we'll set the guardrail real quick that we're going to talk about like rock and roll, but also like doo-wop starts at this time too. We could do a whole nother show on shit. There's like 5 guys that we're going to talk about in this episode. We could do a whole show on.
No, I mean doo-wop was a thing that was made in the streets.
Yeah.
Just 4 or 5 guys get together.
Singing on the street corner kind of thing. So really cool.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit on Bill Haley in the comments just because that's the conception is that he's the first the first rock and roll singer. And I thought it was real. This was his story. I didn't know a lot about him. And I thought this was pretty interesting. So the guy, his band was originally called the Saddlemen, and he was a country singer. And he would kind of go around and he saw that like all these black artists were making rock and roll. And he's like, I want to get in on that. And that's like kind of a theme of the 50s is like white people ripping off black people and making their
that's
music.
how rock and roll started.
Yeah. So he goes down and sees this band called the Tremere, and he sees them in Wildwood, New Jersey. And Wildwood is a Jersey shore town. We've talked about it before. It's about an hour and a half from here in Philadelphia. And he saw this band play, and he was like, we're going to do that. And he changed the name of the Saddlemen to the Comets, and that's where Bill Haley and the Comets. It's like in our backyard. He was a DJ in like Westchester, Pennsylvania.
No way.
So he was kind of a local dude.
Nice.
Him writing that song is big, though.
Sure.
I mean, he captured rock and roll in those lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wildwood, New Jersey is also, like the Wildwood Days, that song.
Yeah.
Like Wildwood has a history of kind of being big in the late 50s, early 60s for music and doo-wop and stuff like that. But he actually, he starts covering a bunch of different artists. And I actually found a cover of him doing Rocket 88. I'll play a little bit of it. It's not as good.
You heard the noise they make, let me introduce you to my rocket 88. Yes, it's great, just one way. Everybody likes my rocket 88. Cows will ride in style, moving all along.
I don't know. Nothing compares to that, or the one that we're used to.
Yeah. I don't mind it. This is the first time I ever heard it. I don't mind it.
I mean, it's real, like the bass sounds like Bill Haley in the Comets.
Yeah, like that slapping. You hear that.
I think maybe on its own it's okay.
Sure,
compared to the original. I don't like it. But so anyway, then he records Rock Around the Clock, and Rock Around the Clock comes out in '54. And I didn't realize this, but it got really big because it was in a movie.
Yeah.
And it was a movie called Blackboard Jungle, and it was in the trailer. And it was in the like the first scene, and then the song just like explodes and goes to number one. They
People
said kids were like
dancing
in the stands and
they were like rioting.
Yeah.
They were holy shit. They were like taking over the popcorn machine.
Yeah.
Now is this the first time like this? Okay, I know we have Rocket 88, but like he says Rock Around the Clock. Does this have something to do when they start naming? Did rock and roll have a name yet at this point?
I looked that up, and there was like a big band guy that used the term rock in like the late 40s.
Oh, that's right.
So it was like kind of like
before. Yeah.
Kind of like but the bigger guy, like Alan Freed, the DJ, starts really using it as a big thing. Because it's also a good point, man. Because like the term rhythm and blues in the early 50s is a lot of this music. Yeah, right. It's the same.
It is like it's rhythm and blues is the.
That's what this is.
Rock and roll,
right? Right. Yeah, it's like the whole rhythm and blues doesn't become like R&B until like modern R&B till like the 60s.
I saw something really cool years ago. I have a friend that lives out in Gloucester City. So, like at one point, Gloucester City had the most bars in like square miles, like in any town.
I believe it.
And on one of the side of the bars, there was this plaque that said, "This is where rock and roll was born," because this is where the first time Bill Haley and the Comets actually performed. Dude, there was this plaque on it, like right on Broadway. I forget the name. I think the place is closed now. I asked a friend of mine last week if it's still there. He said no. But I was always just blown away by that plaque.
Yeah. Interesting. And then Bill Haley wasn't really like he wasn't a rock star, right? He was kind of overweight. He was in his 30s.
Yeah.
He was married. He had 10 kids. He didn't have any charisma. But one thing that he did have was when he covered the song Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And Shake, Rattle, and Roll was originally another song that was written by an African American. And then when he recorded it, it was filthy. It was like the whole song was full of all these sexual lyrics.
Definitely. I was listening to it. It's like, how was this even a hit in the 50s?
It's like the original of it, they made it more like mainstream, but the one line that they kept in it, and we talked about this before, was the line, "I'm a one-eyed cat peeking in a seafood store."
Nice.
That's a penis
smelling
a vagina. Yeah. But they let it go because Bill Haley was blind in one eye. So,
what a
so
gimmick.
if you look at that, he has that weird, like that one curl over his eye.
Right. Yeah,
That's
sure.
over his good eye because he didn't want people to. If you look at his other eye, it's like goes
the other
off
way.
to the side because he was blind. For some freak out, and somehow they left that in there because he was blind. And I was like, whenever the first time I heard that line, like, and what it meant, I was like, holy shit, you're right. I've been singing that since I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
And that's really racy for the early 50s.
Sure.
Really cool. And then he just gets, he gets wiped off the board by Elvis and Buddy
sure.
Holly. They just run
totally.
him over.
He's basically forgotten about until like nerds like us talk about him.
And he died. He had like mental health issues, and he was an alcoholic, and he died in like 1980. Like he lived kind of a sad life. I was reading a little bit about him, but
That's
anyway.
a shame. I didn't know that way. But do you think that like parents were already starting to lose their minds at this point? Like they're like, all the crosses are coming out, and they're like, Jesus, like this is against like the whole like religious
Oh my
thing.
God.
And
Yeah,
Oh,
something
dude, they were burning everything. They
Yes.
were breaking records. Shit, man. The Bible Belt had so much control over everything.
They were. I think it was the Bible Belt, and those people went crazy. And then, I watched a bunch of documentaries on YouTube, and it was like, this is nigger mute, like that. Like they had that reaction
absolutely.
too. Of
yeah.
Oh
Colored
my
music.
God!
Yeah.
Right, like, and people were like smashing the albums and all this other kind of shit.
But then I imagine like places like really like Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, they were eating it up. Like, up here in the north, man, they were just eating it up.
That's what you know. What and I said, smashing records too. The record comes out like the physical, like the recording technology of like the record starts in the 50s as well. I think that becomes
the
available
printing,
where you can like buy like 45s and stuff
Okay.
like that. I think I could be wrong, but
Like anything else, they probably made it more affordable for teenagers to go out and buy a single. Like you had records and things like that, but for affordable, like when we were kids, you can go out and buy a single. Probably like the same thing. Look at they sold money. They sold money in this, and then they sold record players that were like kind of a little bit affordable.
Yeah.
So they're going like the technology was going along with everything.
Like Sears was probably busting out all kinds of record players.
Yeah.
And
Or even
on top of
radios.
that,
Yeah.
having a lot of catalogs selling records.
Yeah.
Rock and roll was a brand new thing, and I think America jumped on that bandwagon.
45s became available in 1949
Okay.
in Camden, New Jersey. So it's
the
like
RCA
by
building?
RCA. So
Yeah,
it's like,
nice.
there's another tie like kind of local. So this area is kind of like ground zero for all this kind of shit. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then I guess, all right, so rock and roll is kind of invented and is blowing up, but there's also like cultural things that were going on that were making that brought this to everybody. And the first one was that dude Alan Freed, the DJ in Cleveland. We talked about him a couple times, that he was like, he didn't invent the term rock and roll, but he used it enough that it kind of
Stuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Became his
And-
calling card.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he they argue that he put on the first rock and roll concert in 52. Like he was playing all this shit, and he put on a show called the Moondog Coronation Ball that had a bunch of rock and roll artists in it and stuff like that. So
That must have been awesome to see those old rock and roll shows.
yeah, dude, especially when it's it's all so new.
Yeah.
Yes, this is like. If you're listening to this stuff, it could be the first time you've ever heard an electric guitar.
Yeah.
Like rock and roll as a thing is completely new. Just really cool.
Yeah. Dude, imagine the sound. It probably wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably like some gymnasium or something like that.
Yeah.
But kids
No, 'cause
had
bananas.
something they wanted to get out of their system.
Sure. Yeah.
They wanted to dance. They wanted to riot. They
Yeah.
wanted to be all over each other. The music made them do it. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
And the and Alan Freed eventually gets brought down by the payola scandal, and there's some other
What is the payola scandal?
So the payola scandal was, hang on, I have some payola stuff in my notes. So payola was radio DJs didn't get to pick their own stuff. So record labels would basically pay radio DJs to play their songs to help boost record sales.
Sure.
So there'd be more royalties, so they would get more royalties. Because a lot of these record labels were ripping off African American artists. So they would be like, oh, this black guy wrote this really great song. As a white dude, I'm going to take a third of his royalties. I'm going to go pay the radio DJ to play it more than I get. So this dude, Alan Freed, he had partial writing credits to Maybelline by Chuck Berry.
Really?
He played the song, no shit, for 2 hours straight one time. So he just kept getting all the royalties off it. And Chuck Berry wound up suing him.
Good for him.
Finally.
Yeah.
Like in the
Yeah.
80s or something to finally get that all
I never knew
undone.
that.
But
I never knew that.
there's all kinds of shitty shit like that.
Is he a shitbag?
He's not the biggest shitbag because he also like so when record labels also would record these songs and then they would have white people come make crap versions of it. And I got a couple we can play later.
Yeah.
He refused to play the white people version. He was like, I'm gonna play. No, that's not the original. I'm going to play.
But who the hell wants to hear that honky shit?
Dude, they're bad. Some of them are really bad, dude. I got two on
But
here that we can play.
do you think he's saying that because that's not the version that he owns? Or
It could be that he's also got his hand in his pocket,
Sure.
some of his pockets.
Yeah,
so.
but it sounds like shit. But at the same time, like, wait a minute, this sounds like shit. I'm not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So
he's one of a handful of people who ripped off Chuck Berry
Yeah.
too. In this is like Jesus Christ.
Everybody ripped off Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Everybody from their fucking guitar licks to the money.
Yeah, everything. And then the other big thing, man, around the culturally was American Bandstand. Again, another Philly.
Yeah.
Another
It's a-
Philly thing, right?
Totally Philadelphia thing that started American Bandstand. American Bandstand, Bruce, give us a little background.
So it was like in 52, right? There was it was just like a TV show where he would have like just artists come on and play some songs. I know there was like people would dance on the
it was
air.
a dance show. Yeah.
And it was almost like, we're old enough that we grew up watching like MTV dance
Or Club MTV.
Club
Yeah,
MTV.
yeah.
This was like that, but like cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so it brought all these artists like to your living room, not just your radio.
and it was like something that was just local,
Yeah.
and it was like getting all over, getting better airplay, a stronger currents on
Yeah.
TV, getting to like Baltimore and Chicago, and
It just
all these- and
expanded.
expanding. But it's cool that all that shit started here in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And Dick Clark, he hosted the New Year's Eve forever.
The so-called Dick Clark show.
Yeah,
The Dick Clark
but
New
he
Year's Eve.
started
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
He was the host forever.
Yeah.
I never knew he wasn't
He's still alive somewhere. He's in a basement somewhere.
zombie Dick Clark.
Yeah.
But what's cool with the American Bandstand, like the neighborhood that me and Ryan live in South Philadelphia, the Girard Estate area, we always talked, not so much anymore because people were moving on, like, age-wise, but you would run in all kinds of people, be like, oh, I was on Bandstand, because it was like filmed like in like West Philadelphia, I believe.
Yeah, like everybody from like the local high schools, they all ran down there to the TV studio before.
To watch it.
Yeah.
To come down to see if they can get on the
I was
show.
just trying to get on the show.
Oh, yeah, every day of the week.
Oh, very
outline.
cool.
Yeah.
Every day of the week, they come down and get in the line, and they had the regulars that were on there every day, but then they would have like Kids Day on Bandstand, or even very awful, they would have like Negro Day.
Yeah. But that's even like on Saturdays. I think somebody told me before they would do like when the show got more and more popular. Like during the week, it would be filmed here, and then on Saturday they go to New York City and do a show.
And do a show there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had to ask my mom if she ever, because my mom like this is like one of the first eras of music that like I just remember my parents listening to doo-wop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my mom was a big bandstand person. I'll tell you, my mom grew up in Tacony in the northeast part of Philadelphia. So
I'm sure she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody was a big part of Bandstand. I mean, it was the only way to see
any of these artists.
Yeah.
the music.
Yeah.
Look how people are gyrating to it.
And it's different than like Ed Sullivan, right? Because Ed Sullivan
Yeah.
would have a couple artists on.
Nah, this was
but
like
this was like
This is middle of the afternoon, like
Yeah.
after school, like 5 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock.
It's almost like Total Request live on MTV, but again, like cool. I'm trying to like make some sort of comparison.
Yeah, you're there.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody's watching Bandstand. Our family's first business in Philadelphia was an ice company, and what we did was we delivered ice to all the bars in the neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah, and all the bars that my father went into to deliver ice, they all had Bandstand
was all on TV.
And here you got like the 6-year-old drunks sitting there watching the teenage girls dance. Like that was the only reason they were watching. They didn't care about the
They
music.
care about the music.
They
They
had
want
the
to see the
volume
pretty
down.
girls.
Yeah, they had
right.
volume
To
down.
volume down on something else. So I do that whenever Katy Perry comes on TV. I turn it on, put something. She's nice to look at, not nice to listen to. And I was surprised to see that Dick Clark wasn't the first host of that.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
It was another dude named Bob Horn, and this
He's
guy.
a shitbag of the week.
I think he is, man. So this guy was fired for drunk driving. He was involved in a prostitution ring. He was sleeping with a 13-year-old. Apparently at the studio where they shot American Bandstand, and they blew them out, and apparently they were ready to pull the plug on the whole show.
Yeah, man.
And then Dick Clark kind of fell into it. We could do an entire episode on American Bandstand.
Totally. I mean, it was the beginning of bringing rock and roll into your living room.
Yeah.
You know, it was one thing on the radio, but now it's on your TV.
Yeah. I'm going to give this guy Bob Horn. We'll give him shitbag of the week.
Sure.
Let me see if I got the right button. Shitbag of the week. Dun, dun, dun. I don't think we had a shitbag of the week last episode.
No,
so.
it's been a while.
It's been a while.
He's a good one. He's a smelly one.
Yeah, total dirtbag that never knew about. But yeah, dude, it's American Bandstand and this guy Alan Freed are kind of doing their thing, and they're bringing music to the people. But another part I have in my notes is like the holy trinity of African Americans in early 50s rock and roll, man. And that's Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, and Little Richard. I started thinking about this, man, like, we still deal with racism in 2020, and the cultural impact that African Americans have had on the music industry cannot be understated.
There would be no music,
I think it's to this day. It's
like jazz, blues, hip hop, R&B,
everything.
Every modern American, every music genre that is attributed to America came out of African Americans.
Yeah, it's rhythm and blues.
Right.
It comes
just
like, yeah. Well, maybe not country, but like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point. Other than country,
I mean, you had some
country,
great R&B. Like, you had James Brown.
Yeah.
You know, James.
Funk music.
Yeah. You know,
Just
on top of rock and roll, you know, you had this R&B music. The Isley Brothers, they were a big influence on a lot of rock and roll bands.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. I mean, yeah, just all this stuff. I mean, and the ultimate version of a white person taking something from a black guy is Elvis.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I mean, Sam Phillips was famous. Like, give me a white man who could sing like a Negro.
I can't wait for that.
I'll make
Elvis
$1 billion.
That Elvis movie is going to be dynamite.
Yeah,
No, it is. But it's just like, you know, that's how much influence that culture had over, like, you know, you had all these white guys wanting to go out there and play this kind of music, like, you know, and make it a rock and roll thing, make it their own. You know, I don't really blame, like, you know, it's all marketing, it's all about making money at the end of the day, but I don't blame them for like wanting to play that style of music. Like, this is like banging shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I want to like.
But
I want to play this
like,
song. I want to sing it.
But
you know?
there's also, I think there's a degree of it too. Is like there's some white record executives who are like,
oh yeah,
oh we can't like you
No,
sound
absolutely.
like America can't handle that. Like the music is enough, but now it's you got like these black folks
Like
doing it. It's
how-
like holy shit.
Like, how outrageous was Little Richard?
Right.
Oh my
Like,
god.
All right. Look, you want to we'll just talk about him?
Yeah, play something
Dude,
right off the bat.
all
He
right.
was so outrageous.
All right, hang on.
Gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. He claimed he has the music, but he having a lot of fun. Oh, baby. Yes, baby. Woo, baby. Having me some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, long, tall, Sally, she built a species guy. Everything that Uncle John need. Oh, baby. Yes, baby. Woo, baby. Having me some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, the song walking
dude,
along with
Dude, I hear historians say that Little Richard is the beginning of rock and roll.
Sure.
Like, you know, there's that story that Dave Grohl always says about Lemmy, that he says Lemmy goes, before there was rock and roll, you had your parents' records, and it was like Rosemary Clooney records.
Yeah.
You know, they were like what was hot and everything like that. Now, here's this new thing, rock and roll, that's totally blowing everything out of the water. And here's Little Richard, colorful as his music
Like,
is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to say it. Yeah.
And
Very good.
that's the thing I keep trying to wrap my head around. You know, like the 50s are also the nuclear family.
Sure.
And the dad in the white t-shirt pushing his lawnmower and the white picket fence. And you got this dude who's like, is he gay? Is he straight? Is he, he's pushing.
He was a fucking rock star.
Right. He's pushing gender kind of shit.
Yeah.
He's got his hair done up.
He's got makeup on.
Right. And it's like, and it's the 50s. And he's black.
Yeah.
And he's in Jim Crow America is just no fucks given, man.
And he's
just
from the South.
Right. He just rolled,
Yeah.
right, a very religious background. He did his own thing and did not give a shit. It's just amazing.
They accepted him. Like, you know, he was a showman. Like, you know, Sammy Davis Jr. and this and that, you know, or I don't know if the timeline's there. But same thing. He's unthreatening. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's a
I think
performer.
he's real threatening. There was a bunch of his songs that were very provocative, man. You know, a wop ba doo ba a lot bam boom. Like,
Yeah, how do you think he's not threatening?
I think just the way that like they didn't see Sammy threatening. Like, you know what I mean? He was a showman. Like, he was like Liberace on steroids. Like, you know what I mean? His talent spoke for himself. He could sing.
I thought I would imagine my grandparents watching that shit and being like, "Turn it off."
Sure,
this is whatever kind of music.
So the music, that's a great segue. So in the music industry, we're like a song like Tutti Frutti. Tutti Frutti, man, that's another song, dude. Like, all right, I found some of the original lyrics. Mm-hmm. The original was a wop bop a loo bop, a good goddamn, Tutti Frutti, good booty. If it don't fit, don't force it. Just grease it, make it easy. Like, that song is about gay sex in the 50s. And it was
Little Richard.
They scaled it back, and Little Richard did his thing, and then they scaled it back even more, and Pat Boone covered it.
And it sounds homosexual.
It does.
When he sings
it's really bad.
Yeah.
Oh, bop, bop, a loo, bop, 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 tutti frutti, oh, Rudy, 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 oh, bop, bop, a loo, bop, 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 I got a gal.
But I heard that he came up with that. He used to work in a kitchen.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
And the boss would come back and start yelling at Little Richard, "You better get it together." And he's like, "Oh, wop, bam, loo, bop, lot, bam, boom, get it out of my face," like kind of thing.
But with Pat Boone doing that, let's like whoever owns like RCA, whoever owned the rights to this song. Okay, well now we're gonna get this Pat Boone guy to do it, like, and he is like white,
and we're gonna get
the
parents to buy it.
Yeah, and we're gonna make more money off of this. Like, you know what I mean?
We got their kids' money.
Yeah.
Now we want the parents' money.
And they're like, "Oh, I'm hip. I'm listening to
Pat Boone."
And Pat Boone also, he covered Long Tongue Sally. And remember, like, we were, I don't know, man, in our 20s, he came out that cover of like all metal shit.
Was great.
He made a career just making these crap. And Little Richard hates him. He was like, I want to beat him.
Yeah.
Because also Little Richard, like, all right, so I read his he sold the rights to this song for $50.
Yikes.
And half of a cent off of every record.
That's a bad.
He got no money whenever the song was used in movies or covered by other people. Mm-hmm. So he got nothing
all these years,
and he sued the record label in '84 for $112 million, and he settled out of court. But it was still like he just got ripped off, man. That song it was in everything.
He was the greatest. Yeah.
And he said he was so poor growing up. They said like his dad died when he was young. His mom had 12 kids. He said like they would literally in the winter they would go out and they would pull like siding off of their house and burn it in the fireplace to stay warm.
Poor, man.
That's really poor. And then he signed this off like that would have been his gravy train. And he just signed a really bad record deal.
He worked his ass off though. He worked his ass off for like 50 years, man.
He probably played 8 days a week, man.
Yeah. He didn't stop.
Yeah. He said he was well, and it's also his dad threw him out of the house when I don't know how old he was when his dad died, but his dad threw him out of the house when he was 15 because he said I'm gonna beat the gay out of you.
Yeah,
and he I guess over his career he was like I'm bisexual, I'm gay.
He was married at one point too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's one of those weird like Elton John kind of like
Mercury
moves all over the place with his sexuality, and I think he also at one point like he quits music for a while to become a preacher, so I think he probably had some internal shit. He was trying to figure out.
But I don't think it ever really came out. Like, I read an article, like, we talked about Little Richard before, and I remember reading something. Like, he never officially came out. He never acknowledged this. He never acknowledged that. But he is fabulous, though.
I think he's too religious to come out. Yeah, or to have that be part of his... How can you say?
Yeah, like his image or his existence or whatever.
Like he was asexual.
Yeah,
like he was breaking gender rules then.
Yeah. And he worked, man, like up until he died.
Sure, he's working all the time.
Commercials and still.
You would always see him whenever you take it for granted. Back then you would see like Little Richard on TV, like he was like on Full House, like Little Richard's on Full House. But
it was like the '80s, the late '80s, early '90s, and he was everywhere. Like you just said, he was everywhere. Every channel, Pepsi commercials. Like he was in a Cinderella. He did a song with Cinderella. Like you know what I mean? Like he was all over the place.
Yeah, I didn't know he did a song with Cinderella, but I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
He was in the video.
Yeah. Was he?
Yeah, for a little shelter.
Yeah. All right, very cool.
If I ever met Tom Kiefer, I'd be like, dude, what was Little Richard like? on set.
You probably say he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, right. Everybody thinks he's awesome.
He was
so.
either awesome or he was just like a pain in the ass to work
Right.
with.
We go to Little Richard and move on to Marvin Berry's famous uncle, Chuck Berry.
Sure.
Marvin.
Right? That was Marvin from Back to the
Yeah,
Future.
yeah.
All right.
His cousin Marvin.
That's what I was just Googling
Michael
up.
J. Fox invented rock and roll.
That's right.
So, the first black rock and roll star, and really one of the first black musicians to cross over from the blues, right? Just
And he wasn't just a great songwriter. He was a great guitar player.
He was. He's a great showman.
yeah, man. Yeah, let's just play a little bit of Johnny B. Good. And this beginning is just one of the songs like you know right away what this is.
It's prestige, man.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny B. Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play a guitar just like a ringing a bell. Go, 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 Johnny, go, go.
Amazing.
It's amazing. It'll never die.
Yeah.
It'll never
Chuck
get
Berry.
old.
Chuck Berry wrote the same song for fucking 60
Sure,
years.
but it's a great song.
Yeah, I know. Just like, AC/DC has been writing the same
Right,
song. Like, all those Chuck Berry songs kind of sound the same.
That Johnny B. Good, man, at one point when NASA was sending out the Voyager spacecraft, they put some records on it in case, like, an alien has a fucking record player.
They got shipwrecked.
Yeah, there's aliens could listen to whatever music is on Earth. That's the song that they put. They put like Beethoven's Fifth in like that song.
I agree with that.
It's amazing. It's just a great song. And I mean, dude, and he's another man that that got ripped off his record contract. So his contract was like when he would go and perform, if a certain number of people bought tickets, he would get $750. Otherwise, he would get $150. And sure as shit, every time he went on tour, somebody from the record, he was on Chess Records, somebody from the record label was there and be like, "Oh man, you fell just short of the $750.
course.
Here's your
Yeah.
$150."
Yeah.
I'm surprised he let people do that to him.
Dude, I wrote some stuff around Maybelline, and so I was saying that he got the Alan Freed had some of the writing credits of it.
That's
They
horrible.
said like he never really looked at who had the writing credit, and he finally looked at one of the records, and he said there was him, Alan Freed, and some guy named Russ Frotto.
And he
And
probably
he was
never
like,
met him. Who's
he
this
was like,
guy?
who the fuck is Russ Frotto?
Yeah.
Russ Frotto was the landlord of he owned the building the Chess Records was in.
They probably
So
owed, they probably
it
owed
was
him
a
money.
kickback.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
owed him money.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they put him on that.
What a
And-
kickback. Holy shit.
and he said he never stopped to think about his contract because he said his first royalty check was twice as much as he paid for his house.
Yeah.
He had no idea what like songwriting credits
He got
were
caught up
and
in it. Yeah.
royalties.
Well, this was kind of like non-invented. It was invented, but it wasn't like a major like moneymaker. Like rock and roll pushed that envelope. They probably like music never made that kind of money that rock and roll made.
They probably
you know?
they were probably couldn't keep up making records.
No.
Right.
Like, they were probably behind catalog. Like, you couldn't get a certain 45 because the back catalog.
John Lennon said like we had to give rock and roll another name. You call it Chuck Berry.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
he
I
was
always like that. Yeah.
He was the first. He was the first person put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's like even we're just playing that. I picture him like I can see him in my head dancing, doing that.
Yeah,
like,
the duck walk. The duck
the
walk.
duck
yeah.
walk with the guitar, and it's just like
He is rock and roll. Like
It's a different kind of rock and roll, like than what Rocket 88 is.
Sure.
Rocket 88 has that fuzz sound on it. Chuck Berry is a very,
Very clean, yeah.
or like chickety,
Yeah.
like kind of chickety kind of sound.
Yeah. He developed the sound though. Like he helped develop it. Like it's like the process of recording was getting better.
He didn't even start playing guitar until he was 18 years old.
No shit.
He got out of jail.
Really?
He got out of jail, and then he started playing guitar after he got out of jail. And then he wrote songs. And he was like, "Oh, what can I write songs about?" It's like teenagers.
Yeah.
He was a smart dude.
Yeah.
he was very intelligent.
How old was he when he first made his first single? Then, if he started working, if he 18 years old, started playing guitar.
I'm not sure, but I did read that he went to see Muddy Waters at a gig and met him backstage and was like, "Hey man, I like your records. How do I put out a record?" And Muddy Waters was like, "Go talk to Leonard Chess and put out this record." So yeah, I'm not sure how old he was though. Man, and another he got ripped off by music executives, and then just like a list of the people that he Keith Richards said he stole He's like, I've stolen every lick that he ever
Sure.
wrote.
Yeah,
That's
every
like-
guitar
yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Every band.
He
Every
invented it.
band in like the
Yeah.
70s ripped off Jimmy.
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry. The Beach Boys had to give him writing
Yeah.
credit for Rockin' USA. He sued the Beatles over Come Together.
Really?
They said it ripped off his song "You Can't Catch Me."
He's trying to get everything back. He had made a bad deal. He's
Goddamn
trying
right,
to get.
man.
I'm trying to get every penny I can get.
He's another that he was bitter.
well,
about
dude, I would
shit
be
and-
too. Everybody
I
ripped
don't
me
know.
off.
I don't know. You know, he started rock and roll.
Yeah,
I mean, how can you not be just self-righteous? Be like, I am the beginning of rock
Yeah.
and roll.
Yeah. Well, I
don't think there's enough money in the world that could keep him happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's very verbal about
I
it.
think it was the prestige of it too.
Yeah.
Like you ripped me off,
and he wasn't modest about it either.
No,
like you
no.
see how Hail Rock and Roll, man. Like
Yeah.
just that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You know, his ego. You know,
It's fun. Some of those old videos too of like he'd be performing with like Keith Richards and he's yelling at Keith Richards where to
That-
stand.
yeah.
There's the one
I
he's
just
like,
watched that.
hysterical, man.
there's the
Yeah.
one he's with the
He's like,
E
all
Street
right,
band.
dude.
He's yelling at him.
He's like, all right, man.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Chuck. He's
Yeah.
like, but you know, Chuck he's the man in charge. You want to play Chuck Berry songs? You're going to play them my way.
Yeah.
You're
Sure.
gonna play him. You know, you think he's going to let some like limey motherfucker come in here and play his song and like fucking take a back seat on it? Be like, oh, you think Chuck Berry gave a fuck about Keith Richards?
No. But you go back and watch it. I forget what song he was trying to like say. He made him play that uncomfortably like too many times. Like it was like, and they showed all like 15 times. Like, nope, do it again, dude. I'm like, all right. I think I texted you guys like a few months ago. I was like, man,
Yeah.
Chuck Berry's a motherfucker.
Yeah, Chuck
not in a good
Chuck
way,
Berry
but he's a
did not-
motherfucker.
did
I
not
don't
care.
think he's a nice guy.
No,
I don't think
not
he's a
at all.
nice guy
No,
at all.
No.
I mean, he went to jail again after he was a rock and roll star.
what was he originally in jail for? Do we know this?
I'm not sure. Well, in '59, he was arrested for transporting a 14-year-old across state lines for immoral purposes.
I kind of knew about that one.
Yeah. He was arrested in '87 for assaulting a woman.
Is that what he farted on?
He did the duck walk on her face. Quack, quack. He had a restaurant
Yeah, I'm not,
too.
I'm
didn't
not sure what he was in jail for.
But you know, he was a freak.
Yeah, he had
Also,
a long line of like womanizing and you know.
He had
Yeah.
some weird fetishes that he was into. They caught him having cameras in his ladies' rooms in his restaurants,
Yeah, and that was like in
shit.
the 80s. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah. Well,
I wonder if he was all like coked out and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like
He always want to get paid in cash, man. Like
he did. It's actually,
Yeah.
I have Wikipedia open, and that's what the line just says. Always insisted on being paid in cash. So,
But yeah, he's an interesting character. I guess you have to be the grandfather of rock and roll.
yeah, another just completely over the top kind
Yeah.
of dude, though. So,
I'll take Little Richard. Like Little Richard seems like a much normal person.
yeah.
well, you know,
they're very different.
Yeah.
yeah,
People, but-
it's different kind of music. It's
Yeah.
two different kinds of music.
Definitely no humility between the two of them, though.
No.
You know, nor with the third guy we're going to talk about, Bo Diddley.
Bo Diddley's the man.
Yeah.
Dude, he
You don't know Diddley.
you do not know Diddley unless you know Bo Diddley. Really interesting too that he I was reading some interviews with him, and he was like, "My job. I went out there on stage, and I wanted to destroy the audience."
Sure.
It was like that guitar mentality of like, I'm going to stomp the shit out of everybody who's listening to me.
And that's like what his music was, is stomping.
Yeah,
You know, let's
Yeah.
hear a song.
yeah, dude. You got Bo Diddley on here, which is a great song.
If that diamond ring don't shine, he gonna take it to a private eye. If that private eye can't see, he better not take the ring from me.
You hear that guitar, and you could be like Keith,
Yeah.
or easily can be one of these British guys.
And he's definitely doing something different that nobody else was doing. You could hear it.
The Bo Diddley beat.
Yeah.
that's the 1 2 3 1 2. The
Yeah,
Yeah. But just the effect on the guitar. Like
Yeah.
whatever, I don't even know if you can call it an effect at this point. of music. But it's
What was that weird guitar that he played on?
It was the
cigar
box.
box.
Yeah. It was. And it had a weird sound to it.
Yeah.
It definitely had. It was Bo Diddley music.
That beat, like I looked up like a bunch of songs that use it. It's like Faith by George Michael,
Sure.
Desire by U2, She's the One, Springsteen, Magic Bus by The Who.
I was going to
It's
ask,
like a foundational.
I was
sound.
going to ask it. Did he sue like the guys like I Want Candy? Did he sue those guys because he totally couldn't fucking sue those
I'm
guys?
not, I don't know.
I think he's
'cause-
another guy that sold his soul to like the white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there anything controversial about him whatsoever?
only that he sold all of his publishing rights for $10,000.
Yeah.
And they said that when he would tour, he drove around in a white hearse, like just kind of
That's
over the
good for
top
him.
showmanship.
Yeah.
But he's self-taught. A guitar player.
Yeah, you can tell
he
that.
built all of his own guitars.
Yeah.
And you look at that early cigar box, and there's all kinds of knobs and shit all over it.
Yeah.
Like I think people were comparing him to the Edge, or like he invented like the tremolo.
Yeah.
And the guitar, he said it was like car part. He said like he built a guitar out of, he took apart a like a phonograph and an old radio and made his own electric guitar, and the tremolo was like parts from like a car
Dude,
that he
how
put
did this
on.
guy's
Like
very inventive. Like I didn't know all this.
And they said he even like I
He's a
was reading
genius.
an interview with him like way later in his life, like after 2000, and he had like some toes amputated for like diabetes or something. He was telling the reporter how he like made a special shoe for him, and it was like, to give him support. So he's like he always was like tinkering with shit.
Sounds
It's really cool.
Yeah, sounds great guy, like amazing.
Yeah.
amazing guy.
He probably had all kinds of inventions.
Yeah, they said he was always messing with the guitar
He's
and the
like
technology.
probably like how the reputation that Jack White has, being
Yeah.
like very inventive with
Yeah.
his gear. Maybe Bo Diddley was like the Nikola Tesla of building
of guitars.
Yeah.
They said he was always another dude. He was just pissed that the record industry focused on Elvis and not him.
Sure.
Because he said too, he was like one of the first guys like playing behind his head and playing with his teeth and all this like over the top showman.
He couldn't
wasn't
shake his
Elvis,
hips though.
though.
Yeah, he couldn't shake his hips
No.
though.
It wasn't Elvis. Elvis was a white guy.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't beat that. That
Right.
was better than gold.
Yep.
I saw a pretty cool story too. He went on Ed Sullivan, and Ed Sullivan's like, "Are you going to play that song 16 tons?" 16
Yeah,
tons
sounds
of what
what
do
you
you
get.
get?
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
And he said he rehearsed it, and then when he went up on stage when the show went live, he played that song Bo Diddley we just
Nice.
played, and they said Ed Sullivan went like batshit.
Oh, sure.
And,
That's
like,
his
the
most
audience
famous
was
song.
batshit.
That's his most famous song, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
And they
you
said
know.
Ed Sullivan was like, "You will never be on TV ever again in your entire life.
It's
if
worth
I had
it.
my like,
It was worth it.
Remember those commercials he was in back in the day with Bo Jackson?
Bo Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, that shit was great.
Yeah, man. He's I don't know if people still listen to him that much.
I think
Like,
so. That song, I think they do.
That's a great song.
Because that was in that Wolf of Wall
The
Street
rhythm.
movie. Like, you know what I mean?
The rhythm.
Yeah.
The rhythm's everywhere. We can even get to, when we're going to talk about Buddy Holly. I think Not Fade Away sounds.
take that beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bo Diddley beat is a real famous thing. Have you heard the stuff he did with the Grateful Dead? Mm-hmm. Have you? I saw that. I was just doing my notes that he went on tour with the Dead, and it was
I
one of
heard him. I heard he opened for the Dead.
Did he?
Yeah.
Like in the 60s?
He said it was it's one of the Dick
can
Picks
see-
albums. I know there's like 100 of those, but there is one with Bo Diddley on it.
Cool.
I put it on here. I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. It's like-
Everybody wanted to play with the Dead.
Yeah,
I mean, the Dead was just an
had a huge
electrified blues band.
Yeah. And they had a huge audience also, so it's exposure.
it seemed like every couple of years, like other bands realized how important he was. Right,
That's
The
great.
Dead, and
Yeah.
like he toured with the Clash.
That's
and
great.
some other
Yeah.
kinds of like bring him around. Yeah, and I didn't see a lot in his like about him being like a bad dude.
No.
like
Just
compared-
bad businessman.
Yeah,
It seems
Yeah.
like everybody was a bad businessman at
They
some
just-
point of their career.
They
Because it was
just
all
wanted
new.
to get on the radio.
Yeah, it was all
Yeah,
new.
you're right. It's all new. There's no,
And they're probably
music
making more money
attorneys.
than they ever made and that they could think of. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, I'll sign anywhere. Like, so it's bad business. It's being invented as it goes along.
They're like, I'll write another song.
Yeah.
And guess what? And it wasn't the same song, and it wasn't a hit.
It's like the opportunity for like, all right, man, like as African Americans, we've done something that white people haven't. Like we have the upper ground here. We could have owned this shit, but then like the business executive just
the
effed
world
it all
wasn't
up.
ready. The world wasn't ready for
No.
that yet. The world wasn't in that place yet.
No, I mean early 50s, right? I think it's
Yeah.
like what 54 is Rosa Parks. So it's like
Yeah,
we
the
still
world's
got
not there. Yeah.
It's just a shame.
Yeah.
Just I don't know. I mean, out of all the research, that was like the one thing I came away with. It was like how these guys just got like hosed and screwed,
Yeah.
and the shitty white people covers and the water, and it's just like it's lame. some of the covers are just lame, like the white people versions.
Like I said, they were targeting the parents.
Yeah,
they had to be.
Yeah, let me. You know what, dude? I don't have him in here, so maybe we can just like I'll talk about this real bad. Like the example I found of the crappy covers was one of the versions from Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. You know, great song, right? And he was like, they set the stage for like the Jackson 5 and all that other kind of shit. So I'll play a little bit of that, and then I have a white person cover. It's so terrible.
Which song is it? Teenager Love?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, why do fools fall in love? Yeah. So here's a little bit of the Frankie Lyman. Just great, right?
He was fantastic.
He's 13 when he's singing that.
He was a huge star.
Yeah.
He was a huge star.
All right, so here's a version of it that was out, and this is by a band called the Diamonds, and I'm gonna skip about 40 seconds into it. This is so fucking terrible.
Game love can put people to shame. I know of a fool you see, for that fool is me. Tell me why.
With the reverb.
So bad.
That is horrible. That's so strange.
Right.
It was, music was different then.
They just wanted to. I guess give the guy credit for holding the note that long, but wow.
And the cover's like four white dudes in a
because it was safe.
Oh wait, the Diamonds. They also did this song.
That's horrible.
It's the same group.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is their big. So that's their song.
I'm looking at the little picture. I'm like, oh, it's 4 white guys in tuxedos. Like, oh wait, no, there's another song on the playlist with the same. Okay, it's those guys. But that version of Why Do Fools Fall in Love, it's like there's no soul in that at all.
But it's just like, dude, they're going to make money off of it. They're going to push it out.
But I thought the original version was very white.
Sure.
Like, there was no R&B to it at all.
Yeah.
It was just straight up kind of show tune singing.
There's also like
it's marketable.
There's white version groups of like Shaboom and Earth Angel, like all those kind of real soulful, the guy, the band with the guy that has the really singing the bass, like the boom 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 boom, and they made these crappy white people versions.
But it's
of
like
it.
You go home, I kind of get where these record companies are at. Like, okay, well, these kids are not going to be able to walk in their house with these album sleeves or whatever with these black guys on it. So we're going to put a bunch of white guys on it. They're not going to do a better job, but they're going to buy an album because they like the other version.
Little Richard said that, and I was reading the thing about how much he hated Pat Boone. He was like, they would come home with the Pat Boone version and put it on top of their dresser so their parents would see it, but then they would secretly keep my version in the top drawer to pull out when their parents went to bed.
What is this? True. Oh, it's Pat Boone.
Yeah.
True.
That's awesome.
So, I think that's it for those guys. Any one of those we could do an entire fucking episode on.
Those
man.
dudes were just pioneers of what rock and roll became.
Yeah.
The attitude, the aggression.
Attitude, that's a great point too. Because like Chuck Berry's almost like punk rock a little bit.
Yeah.
And Little Richard leads to
Prince
and Queen and
the eccentric rock and roll.
Or like Hendrix too, like playing the guitar behind your head kind of shit. And, all right, man, we're going to talk about like Sun Records a little bit too. So we're not going to get too much into like the history of Sun Records because we said we did 2 hours on it, but
that was a great episode.
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
Yeah,
so much music came out of that.
Do you think people, like we were talking about the recording process, do you think people recognize the echoing that we were talking about on the vocals?
I think you have to be really... I think our show is for people that are not casual music fans.
Right on.
But maybe...
I don't know, our audience is really listen to different kind of genres of music.
Sure.
I talk to enough people out there.
We jump all over the place too.
Yeah.
But we definitely target the people that want some more like nerd kind of stuff. I don't know how much... I don't know, man, if people care about the technology of the 50s in music. I don't know. I'll cut that out. I don't want to be insulting to anybody. I don't know. I think it's fascinating. But, you say a lot, Ryan, about artists using the studio as an instrument.
Well, I
and
think
how,
they had such a great opportunity to do that, to make such good records in the studio, because you would have an orchestra at your
Exposure.
yeah.
I mean,
you had, it wasn't just like there was a 4-piece band. It was like, no, you had a 27-piece orchestra backing up you, and that's why it sounds fucking awesome
with recording technology.
Yeah.
You mean at Sun? You mean?
Oh, I'm still thinking about big like recording.
You're thinking about like chess and all that, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Like using multiple tracks and layering
Yeah.
shit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what you said too, man, you talked a lot about in the Sun Records episode about how Sam Phillips was able to do that echoing technique on Elvis, and then when like RCA got his contract, they were like, "All right, do the thing."
Yeah.
and he's
Do
like,
the
"I don't know
Elvis-
how to. I don't know how to do." And they couldn't
Yeah.
figure it out
Yeah.
how to do
Yeah.
it. It's like how
So he did, I forget what we said. Did he tell them how to do it, or he kept that shit to himself?
I think he kept that.
I think
to
he
himself.
did too. I
Yeah.
think they had Elvis in like a hallway or so. They tried
It's
to
like,
put him
oh,
in
you
a
paid-
hallway to get the echo
It's
like
like,
down
no,
the.
no, you paid for Elvis. You didn't pay for how I
Yeah.
recorded him. So you got the kid, but I got the know-how of how to record the kid.
I'm sorry, the RCA recordings are unbelievable.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, I
they're
mean, Elvis
fantastic.
didn't.
Yeah.
Elvis didn't.
The recordings that he did at Sun Record were very important into rock and roll. But the technology that they were using compared to what RCA was using
was apples
two
and
different
oranges,
fucking
yeah.
things.
yeah, yeah. Jailhouse. You have Jailhouse Rock on here. I'm going to play a little bit of that. You can never again another opening of a rock and roll song. You're like you hear it and you immediately bow, bow, you know
See,
immediately what
yeah.
it is.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there and they began to wail. The band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard this knocked out jailbird sing. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock. Everybody in old cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Spider Murphy played his tenor saxophone. Little Joe was blowing on the slide trombone. The drummer boy from Illinois would crash, boom, bang. The whole
I was driving down here. I was listening to that, and I was, he's like, so and so playing the trombone, and I was like, "Is there a tambourine? Is it going to be like
Yeah,
Colonel Decker
Colonel
playing
Decker
the tambourine from our the Elvis
Episode.
the comeback special
Yeah.
episode?"
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I agree that the RCA stuff does take it to another level. I like the early stuff. I like some of the Sun Record stuff just because also
Sun
you're
Record
like,
stuff is great. It's like a punk rock kind of way.
and knowing
Yeah.
It's the
knowing
beginning of the story.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the
knowing
beginning
the
of the
story
story.
where it like blows Sam Phillips away and
Yeah.
just that he's kind of messing around and shit. But I love all this Sun Records music. But also that's that Elvis song. When I hear Elvis, when I just hear the name Elvis, that's what I think of.
Well, it was a huge.
dancing.
It was a huge success. That movie was huge, and that image of him in the jailhouse suit with the jacket on. You know, that was
dancing
iconic.
That's
know?
actually a really good movie. I did watch it not too long ago. For like,
It's kind of like Rebel Without a Cause.
yeah, he's kind of a real jerk in the movie though too. Like if you
I don't
ever
think
sit
I've
there and
ever-
watch-
I don't think I've
You
ever
should.
seen it.
Yeah, he's like he's kind of a jerk in it.
I'll watch that before I watch the one that Do the Clam was in that we were talking about in the comeback special.
He made so many bad movies.
Yeah.
We blame it on the drugs.
Yeah, and the Colonel.
The Colonel.
Yeah.
Colonel and drugs.
The Colonel and drugs and the drugs and Colonel. But yeah, man. And Sun Records, dude, the amount of stuff that they put out. I mean, just the big names. And one thing I really enjoyed doing the episode on Sun Records was how much stuff that I didn't know that I learned, like artists
remember
that I
that,
was
yeah.
like, just so much just like awesome music was coming out of that place. That but yeah, the big ones are Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, even though he's like, not really rock and roll, but just like all that stuff within like 10 years. Just crazy.
Carl Perkins.
Carl Perkins was great, man.
He was a great dude, man. Being a great guitar player and then being a great human.
And the impact he had on like George Harrison and stuff like that and the Beatles. And Jerry Lee Lewis too, just crazy man.
Yeah.
Like taking the same kind of over the top bravado that like Little Richard had, but he was white. So it was a little bit more
Who's
accepted.
more controversial, him or Chuck Berry?
Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah, Jerry Lewis or Chuck Berry. Who's more controversial at the end of the day?
I mean,
And Jerry's still
Lee
alive, dude. That's crazy.
Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin.
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's
I think,
pretty bad.
yeah, we'll play a little bit of whole shaking going on.
Yes, I say, come on over, baby. Baby, you can't go wrong. We ain't faking. Oh, lot of shaking going on. Well, I say, come on over, baby. We got chicken in the corner. Woo, huh? Come on over, baby. Well, I got the bull by the horn. We ain't faking. Oh, lot of shaking going on.
I think his
song.
music's more of a country kind of feel.
There's a
I
twang
agree.
to it.
Yeah.
You know, than what Elvis did. Elvis was more of a rock and roll, like Chuck Berry kind of thing. Jerry Lee Lewis, man, he was like he hopped. His music was hopping.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying about the country western. Just more of a. There's just something more to
it's his
it than.
roots. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's his roots. It's where he's from.
Yeah.
You know, he grew up in the Bible Belt and hearing all the Baptists and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Jerry Lee. I love everything I did a lot, like his earlier career. I love Jerry. He's like one of my favorites.
I mean, that song just sums up like scary rock and roll. Right?
Yeah,
There's
no,
a
he
whole lot
scares
of
shit
shit
out of
going
people.
on.
Yeah.
Right? He's
Yeah.
singing about like
He's pushing the
he's
envelope.
making some references to like we got chicken and the bull by the like old
yeah.
like farm kind of shit.
He's a
and then
wild
he's a crazy man, right? He was playing the piano with his feet and
Yeah.
just
Lighting on
stomping it,
fire.
Right, he had the long, kind of longish hair, but I think more people know the scandal of him than that Chuck Berry was in jail.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think.
We didn't know why
Like,
Chuck Berry was in jail for the first time. We still can't figure
Right,
it out.
right,
But everybody
right.
knows that Jerry Lee married cousin and
just totally derailed
destroyed
his
himself.
Right,
He's fucking,
Yeah.
not a great person, but I love his music.
yeah. And you said Carl Perkins, man, he wrote Blue Suede Shoes. Another, Elvis covers it after I think what it was after Elvis left Sun Records.
I don't know.
I forget the song. It's in our Sun Records episode. We did a whole thing on that song and who did what, or it was no, Carl Perkins was like in an accident. It was in a car accident or something. I think Elvis covered it. I don't know. Go back and listen to our Sun Records episode. We talked a lot about it. But what else? Any other Sun Records stuff?
No, go listen to our episode.
We got like 2 hours we did on all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of like the big tier guys, and then I had like a list of like other important artists that we could talk about. Maybe we take a break, and we can come back and we'll take it from there.
Awesome.
All right, we'll be back.
Stick around.
Prisoners of Rock and Roll is sponsored by McCusker's Tavern at 17th and Shunk Streets in Philadelphia. There's something for everyone on the beer list and the jukebox in McCusker's. It's minutes from the sports stadiums in Philly, making it a great place to stop by for a few drinks before or after a concert or a game. Come see for yourself why everyone from Philadelphia Magazine to Playboy has called it one of the best dive bars in the city. Visit them at 17th and Shunk Streets in Philadelphia or on Facebook. That's McCusker's Tavern. All right. You know what, guys? One thing I forgot to say. We have a new sponsor, too. Prisoners of Rock and Roll is now sponsored by Boldfoot Socks.
Nice.
Remember I mentioned in the last episode, I was talking about them, and the owner, Josh, emailed us. He was like binge listening to the show.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And he was like, I started at episode 1, and I was all the way up to your U2 episode, and he was like sending me all this, like, the Beatles versus the Stones. I picked the Stones and everything. Well,
Good man.
He actually, we love hearing from listeners. So I wrote him back and we started going back and forth. And I said something about like being a runner. And he was telling me he's a runner. And he's like, I run the sock company. Can I send you a pair of socks? And he actually wound up being their sponsor in the show now. And they're part of the
fantastic,
Pantheon
yeah.
family. Really cool. And I can't just like...
It's all because of us.
And I can't just like read something. I got to go down the rabbit hole just like I
Sure.
do with the show. So I started reading all about the company, man. It was really cool. So their motto is like, well, we're grown here and we're sown here. So everything, it's 100% made in America, which I was like, okay.
That's great.
Yeah. And the dude's a veteran, and it's a family
Like
owned
service, yeah.
It's a family owned business, and he's a veteran, and they give 5% of all their proceeds back to veteran charities.
That's great.
So I was like, all right, man, dude, I'm down. And he mailed me a pair of socks. I was like, dude, they're comfy as hell. I
Yeah,
actually,
you had them on the one day. They
Yeah.
look great.
I know. So it's like I had to go into the office one day this week in my real job for the first time in like 2 years. And I'm like, I put them aside and was like, dude, I'm going to wear these, right?
Yeah.
I got to put on pants for the first time in 2 years and go talk to people in person. I'm going to definitely rock my Boldfoot socks. So they're over at boldfoot.com. Yeah, man, just really, really cool small business that we're happy to support. And we really dig that they were listening to us. And he said he wound up checking out a bunch of other shows on the Pantheon Podcast Network and really dug it. So just we're really happy to have a part of it, man. Really, really, really cool stuff.
We're making moves. We're making things happen.
Making money, making friends.
Yes.
Making money, making friends.
Good stuff.
And talking about music along the way. Good stuff, man. All right, so we're going to keep on rolling. We got a list of like other artists, and that's not to say by any means that any of these are kind of like, this isn't like the odds and ends bin like some of the other episodes we do, because some of these are like really, really big names that, again, we could talk about a lot. And the first one we got on here is another African-American musician, and that's Fats Domino. I'm a huge fan of Fats Domino.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's great.
Blueberry Hill.
Yeah.
What a great song.
Blueberry Hill is great. I'm Walking is just like it's kind of got like a Ray Charles kind of vibe to it. I'll play a little bit of Blueberry Hill. It's an awesome song.
I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill, on Blueberry Hill. When I found you, the moon stood still.
It's really swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And as much as those other guys were talking about, like, there's no humility, I always thought Fats Domino was a very, like, to me, he seems like a very humble dude. Like, just very unassuming.
Sure.
He had in every video you ever see of him, he had this enormous grin on his face.
Yeah.
Like,
He was a
just
New Orleans guy.
Yeah, and he said, like, I don't know why you keep calling it rock and roll. I'm just playing the same stuff I've been playing in New Orleans for 10 years, 15 years.
Just
So, like,
get recognized for it, yeah.
He's kind of like, all right, what's the big deal, man? I'm just playing my music. Like, he was the first person to make a single that sold 1 million copies.
Good shit.
So, and he, I didn't think of this dude. All right, from 55 to 60, he had 11 top 10 hits. So it was like, dude,
that's
just
amazing.
Cranking out everything.
And I love it. He's so modest. He's like, I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah,
You know,
really cool, man.
I love it.
The Beatles, Lady Madonna, I suppose they said they wrote it in the style of Fats Domino, and this was cool too. So like he was at Elvis's first show in Vegas, the Vegas residency, and Elvis does a press conference afterwards, and the reporter called Elvis the king, and Elvis was like, whoa, I am not the king. That man sitting over there, Fats Domino,
That's great.
he is the king.
That's awesome.
So it's like they all looked
great.
up to him, man. Just really cool.
No, I mean, I remember hearing stories, even like the Beatles saying they were hanging out with Fats Domino. It was a big deal to them.
Sure.
You know?
He doesn't come across as like a rock guy to me either.
He later in life, he became like this ambassador of New Orleans. He always had that captain's hat on.
That's right. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? And he was always in the casinos and shaking hands. And,
Remember,
you know.
remember, like in Katrina, there was like that he died. There was like rumors that he.
Oh,
Like, 'cause
yeah, I
he
do
lived,
remember
he
that.
lived there up until he passed away.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was the fear that he got like swept away
Yeah.
in Katrina, but he didn't.
Right.
But it was just I felt like terrible for it when I heard that.
Let's go down the ship. That's where he's from. That's his home.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, real. Just I don't know, man. Just one of those artists that every time I hear any of his music, and I was like, "Oh, I know that song. I know that song," and it's just rock and piano.
Or like, I've heard somebody rip that off.
Yeah.
You
Sure,
know?
yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah, that's just that swing with the guitar or that swing with the piano is just incredibly recognizable.
It's like a shuffle.
Yeah.
You know, a rock and roll shuffle.
Yeah, and it took me much later in my life than I should have to realize that Chubby Checker is ripping off Fats Domino.
Yeah.
Like the names, like Chubby.
yeah.
Instead of the Fat, you're Fat
Domino's a
Domino.
checker.
I'm the Chubby
Yeah.
Checker, and I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, man! I am that stupid that I never
never
put that
thought of it.
together.
Yeah. Me
Until
neither.
That
now.
has to be where it came from.
Yeah.
If not, I just made that up and said it
I like
confidently.
it.
But
I like it.
yeah, man, just really, really cool. He was a dude. You always remember those old like Time Life series, like you could order like 15 CDs on
Right.
like music of the 50s. I always remember that song being one of the clips that they would
I
show.
remember always his songs being on Happy Days.
Yeah. He was a big
Like
part.
back
Yeah.
in the day. You would always hear in the beginning of of the intro of them walking in the Arnold's, and you hear them in the background playing.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the same thing. Like any period movie from that time, you're going to hear Fats Domino. You know, you're going to hear one of his songs in there. You know,
What we were saying about like how the 50s are kind of like romanticized now, and the drive-in and everything. Happy Days is a great example of that too.
Yeah.
Right? Like that song "Rock
Yeah.
Around the Clock" is at the beginning,
Yeah.
and the diner and the Joni Loves Chachi and
and American Graffiti also. You know, you go into that
American Graffiti, right?
You know,
All right, I am kind of dressed as the Fonz right now.
Yes.
You know, with the outfit and everything is.
hey Cunningham.
Yeah, good point.
Hey, shortcake.
Who else is on here? Oh, all right. Next is Eddie Cochran. I'm
Underrated.
Absolutely.
I am a huge Eddie Cochran fan.
It's a hot rod song, man.
Yeah, dude. Let's just play it.
I'm a gonna raise a fuss, I'm a gonna raise a holler about a working all summer just to try to earn $1. Yeah, every time I call my baby, try to get a date, my boss says,
No die, son, you gotta work late.
sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
That's heavy.
That is heavy. I was just thinking the same thing. Like that had to blow kids' doors off, man. Like that's
mean-
like a really rebellious. Like I got the blues. Like you know what I mean.
That bass, and it's like I just was thinking of like Jack and Diane by Mellencamp, like that same, like
Yeah.
that, like he had to have stolen that from it.
Yeah.
I saw Springsteen one time, and he just walked out on Citizen Meg Park. It was like in the summer, and he just opened with that song,
Wow.
and I was just like, like
that's
this,
going on his cool moments.
yeah, just really, really cool. He's like James Dean with a guitar,
Sure.
right? He was good looking. He kind of had that rebel attitude, like, and he died young.
Yeah.
It's just, he died in a really weird, like, he was in a taxi with Gene Vincent and their tour manager and his fiance, and the taxi driver. They started to skid out and they were ready to hit a lamppost, and he like threw himself over his fiance, trying to protect her, and in doing that, he got thrown out of the car and he died.
Wow.
And he was like in his early 20s.
Yeah.
But he had a couple hits that were like, "Come On, Everybody's a great song."
That's a great song.
Yeah, just kind of rockabilly feel. Just
Yeah, he like started a whole culture, like you said, the rockabilly. Like you know what I mean, like he said, it was like that James Dean type character. Like you know, like even today, people love Eddie Cochran.
Yeah.
like I mean, it's like a go-to.
Yeah, I think Brian Setzer totally
Absolutely.
rips
Yeah.
off Eddie Cochran.
yeah. And we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna dive into rockabilly too much, but that kind of starts coming out of
Yeah.
this, like the country and the western and the rock music kind of coming together, and we all love rockabilly music. Really, really cool, and that's another thing that's been on our topic list for a while. You know, the hot rods and the the pompadours and all that other kind of stuff. Eddie Cochran too was good friends with Buddy Holly and Richie Valens, and he said like after they died, he said he was like obsessed that he was going to die too.
No way.
But he said he was trying to like, I don't want to go on the road because
Yeah.
I'm going to die
He
on the
knew.
road. And it was like that was a year later. Like Buddy Holly died in '59, he died in '60.
So he knew it was he just had this feeling.
Yeah, they said it was like this creepy. He had this creepy obsession that like I'm going to die. Something's going to happen to me on the road.
He's like, oh my God, I'm so talented. I'm going to die.
right. I got to make these records. So, really, really cool, man. I'm a big Eddie Cochran fan, and it's nice that we finally got to talk about him 41 episodes in. The next dude we have on the list is somebody we've talked about several times, and that's Buddy Holly. So we talked about him in our, American bands. We talked to him. We did a whole episode breaking down American Pie. He's one of the greatest
Absolutely.
rock and roll stars
Of all time.
ever. Just, and you, Ryan, you had, what'd you put on here? You put Not Fade Away on here? Dude, just...
It's a monster.
It's just everything he does, like that whole, like the way he sings, the hiccuping, and just it's
He was so fucking great, wasn't he?
and I've said this a couple times before, man. It was like how much music did we get? Like there was a year and a half between his first album came out and he died, and he still
amazing.
like impacted the Beatles and Elvis, like everybody he impacted.
He was doing something that nobody else was doing.
Right,
You know.
right. And
You
he
had your
said, like-
Elvis. You had your this. You had your that. You know.
He was like writing his own stuff,
Yeah.
and he was getting ready to like kind of
Branch off.
start his own record label
Yeah.
because he was tired of getting ripped off, and like
I thought he was more Chuck Berry than Elvis. You know, like he had a very clean sound.
Yeah.
Like Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like meaning like when I said that, like you had your Elvis going on, you had this, you had that. Like, you know, Elvis is Elvis. We always said that, but like, you know, Buddy Holly, man, the talent just falls off of him.
Elvis.
Yeah, I mean-
I'm not trying to discount Elvis,
No,
but part
yeah.
of Elvis is the showmanship and the shaking the hips.
Yeah.
And Buddy Holly's he's a nerd.
He was a nerd. He knew how to work the recording studio.
Yeah.
He was smart.
Yeah, the
Elvis
business-
wasn't really a smart dude.
The business,
Yeah.
no, right.
He was gullible.
Compare
you know.
like the Colonel to Buddy Holly going like, this sucks. We're not making enough money. Like he was broke, so he was on that tour that he died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he had to go on the road to try to make money.
Yeah, had a kid coming.
Right. He was
Stay relevant.
His wife
Yeah,
was
keep on
pregnant.
moving.
and-
Yeah.
Right. Had to keep hustling, but he was ready to. You know, he was like it's very punk rock to a degree that he's just like taking on every. You know, I'm gonna do the producing and I'm gonna do the business end and
Because
everything.
he can do it better than anybody else that can do it for
He had
him.
a
Right. He had a
you know?
vision. Yes. Yeah. And all the shit that he did, man, just so like light years ahead of everybody else, man.
He
Just,
was so cool. He was so cool with those glasses.
he's so square that it's cool.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
like Roy
yeah.
Orbison's
Yeah.
like that too. Like he's so
Yeah.
nerdy.
It's like
that
all
it's
those
badass.
all those dudes in Weezer. They all like got their ideas from him.
All right, I'm gonna play some Buddy Holly.
I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. Are you gonna give your love to me? I wanna love you night and day. You know my love will not fade away. Oh, well, you know my love will not fade away.
There's not even like not everything is mic'd. Yeah, like that.
No, you
like
hear
he's
the
hitting,
drums.
he's hitting the guitar.
The drums sound great.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's probably using a crate or something.
Yeah, whatever that is, it's like there's not a mic right up next to it.
Yeah,
It sounds
it
like
sounds
it's
great.
like a little distant. Even the backup singers like sound like they're not right on the
no.
mic.
But you know,
But
as I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
go ahead.
But it's just like, you know, we talked about in the like previous episodes, like for the recording process and what he did differently, just as important as the beautiful songs that he wrote. You know what I mean? It's so important. Like, it's so before his time, and which we said in other episodes. You know,
Yeah, dude, just the impact that Buddy Holly had on everything. I mean, even those glasses are still like, you know that as soon as you see them. They're like the Buddy Holly glasses.
They're amazing. I mean, if you never seen the movie, the Buddy Holly movie,
with
Gary
Busey.
Busey, man, he puts those glasses on and he becomes Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can't get enough of that movie. Like, and it's all Gary Busey playing guitar and singing, and
He's one of those dudes, the Buddy Holly, that I could go as far back down in his catalog. You know, 'cause he didn't put in a lot of material, but there's a lot, you know, like the throwaway crap from the recorded. Like, I'll listen to any of that stuff.
sure, anything
and
he puts
eat it
out,
up.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, give me every single thing you ever recorded of him, and I'll take it all. It's just, it's great.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
it's a shame.
Yeah. The Everly Brothers. We haven't gotten to talk
they're
about
great.
them yet, man.
Yeah.
They're another one, dude. A lot of these artists we've talked about are in the inaugural class of the Rock
Sure.
and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the Everly Brothers are one of them.
And the Beatles loved the Everly Brothers.
I think
Like,
a lot of bands did. I think like the Mamas and the Papas, a lot of groups like that were using harmonies. Totally.
Yeah, dude.
Even like Paul Simon and Garfunkel.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
dude.
They were-
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah.
All came from them.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of Wake Up, Little Susie.
Wake up, little Susie, wake up. Wake up, little Susie, wake up. We both been sound asleep. Wake up, little Susie, and weep. The movie's over, it's 4 o'clock, and we're in trouble deep. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up, little Susie. Well, what are we gonna tell your mama? What are we gonna tell your papa?
Great song.
Dude, it's It's just great. And the lyrics are a
just-
little weird now in 2022. You're
Yeah.
like, you fell asleep at the movie and they're going to say, ooh la la. But yeah, man, the guitar's rocking.
I think the guitar is very rocking for an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, choppy.
Do you think that like the Everly Brothers, like a lot of people look them as like white bread? Like it's
Yeah,
kind of like
I
hokey,
do.
hokey
yeah, I do
shit.
too. And you realize that you don't.
It's not. I don't.
how cool it is.
Yeah.
That it's
Yeah.
I think they fall in the Everly Brothers and the Righteous Brothers and just generic kind of Ricky Nelson pop kind of stuff. But like, dude, they're great.
They're all great.
Yeah, the Everly Brothers are really, really good. And the one brother just passed away last year.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Richie Valens, he was one, like, we talked about him a little bit in the episode on the day the music died, and we broke down American Pie. But, man, I always, every time I see a picture of him, it comes on my radio, and there's always, like, the album cover. Like, he was 17 when he died. Like, he looks like he's, like, 40.
Yeah. I was looking at a picture of him one thing. He just this chubby little kid compared to, like, what these rock stars were men.
Yeah.
And he was, like, this little kid.
And I like that you put on "Come On, Let's Go" on the playlist and not La Bamba. And La Bamba is a good song.
Yeah, but it's cliche.
Yeah, but this is also an awesome song, and it kind of fits maybe the '50s vibe a little bit. Here's 30 seconds of it.
Well, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, little darling. And tell me that you never leave me. Come on, let's go. Again and again. Well, now swing me all the way down there. Come on, let's go, little darling. Let's go again once more. Well,
That's
It's great. It's just like a great rock pop kind of song.
As I'm sitting here listening, like the last 3 songs we listened to, like it's a lot different than what the rhythms and blues were doing. It's all rock and roll, meaning like you're focusing more on the vocals, focusing more on the guitars. There's no saxophone in any of these songs. They're not filling in the gaps with big bands and instruments and like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Keeping
kind
it
of just
simple.
broken down,
They're keeping it
simple rock and roll.
simplified.
I like that.
Stripped down.
And I can't think of in the story of rock and roll he's the first like Hispanic guy. I can't think of another Hispanic dude that was like a big deal. And the fact that he was playing like a Mexican like folk song that he jazzed up and made a rock and roll song was like again in the 50s, way ahead of.
He was doing something that nobody was doing at his time.
Something different. And
He was trying to cross over.
Yeah.
He was trying to bring his world into pop world. And
apparently
he kind of succeeded there for a moment.
Yeah. And
Apparently,
it's
he worked his ass off to get where he was. Apparently,
yeah, and he's a kid. I mean, he literally was a
had a vision.
Legally,
Yeah,
was
he
a
wanted-
kid.
yeah.
I love that movie, La Bamba.
Yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips.
He was awesome in that movie.
I don't know if he, like, one of you guys said this about the Big Bopper. Like, would anybody still know who he was had he not died in the plane crash? It was like, I
likely
mean,
not.
and Richie Valens was immortalized as well. Like, Buddy Holly was Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
Like, he stands, I mean, he's more immortalized because he died so young. But it's like Richie Valens, like, I don't know, man. Like,
I know there's no movie about the Big Bopper though. You have the
That's
movie about those
true.
2 other guys.
I don't think I think the Big Bopper was more of a personality.
Yeah.
He was a radio DJ.
Yeah.
He was just like like a Flavor Flav.
like a novelty kind. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
a great
You
song.
know.
And at one point I went back and I listened to a lot of Big Bopper stuff, and I was really enjoying it. Like, shit that's got like 2,000 listens on Spotify in like 10 years.
Yeah.
But I was really enjoying it. Richie Valens, I was like, I don't know, man, if he would we still be talking about him had he not been in that tragedy?
The songs are there. The songs
Yeah.
are there.
Yeah.
Though. I think we'd still be talking about. him.
Okay.
Because regardless of him passing away, like on the plane, those are great songs. Like they're timeless songs.
I like that song more than I like La Bamba.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's just my thing.
He has that O'Donna song.
yeah, that was a big song.
Yeah. I forgot about O'Donna. That's a sad. It plays at the end of the movie when she realizes he died. And she's screaming Richie, and his
What a sad
girlfriend.
movie.
Yeah,
We saw that in the theater.
did you?
Yeah.
I had the soundtrack.
He did.
I do.
Los Lobos.
Los Lobos. I don't like that cover of that song either, but that's that's just me. That's just my
probably
thing.
heard it
I'll
too
let
many
you know a little
times.
secret. it's not really Lou Diamond Phillips singing it.
Comic book guy's gonna, or El Comic Hombre is gonna pull me up for not like a Richie Valens.
It's not really Lou Diamond Phillips.
No.
What heartbreaking is it?
Next is Ray Charles, dude. A great call.
Yeah,
you
it
made
was
that
great.
call, and I was like, I think he really takes off in the 60s, but he's on the board in the 50s.
Yeah.
And, dude,
He totally structured things for rock and roll.
Man, just bridging that gap between like soulful music and some of his stuff just rocks.
He just did it better. He just did it better. He could sing better. He played like piano. He's just an amazing musician.
Yeah, like I think the song "I Got a Woman" came out in the 50s, and like the Beatles covered it, and everybody
Yeah.
else. I mean, you put "Hit the Road Jack" on here.
Everybody
Yeah,
loves Ray,
dude,
man.
just-
Everybody loves Ray Charles.
Yeah, let's listen to it, man. We haven't talked about him at all yet, and
Ever.
all the
Yeah.
all the episodes we've been doing. Just
Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
Oh woman, don't treat me so mean. You're the meanest old woman that I've ever seen. I guess if you say so, I'll have to pack my things and go.
That's right, hit the road.
He's so
Dude.
raunchy.
Yeah.
I think his sound
like,
is
what'd
so
you say,
raunchy.
woman? Just
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as you say, like I do, it's so raunchy, but there's so much class behind his music, though. Like with it, like the orchestration, it's like a big thing. Not every Ray Charles songs, but like a lot of them have this big sound behind it, like that classic big band sound, like
Yeah.
from the 30s and 40s.
I think he's an intellectual.
Sure, he's a smart guy.
Totally. Like, he's
He's a musical genius.
yeah.
I can't. I remember being a little kid, man, and seeing him and not under like how like I can't play the piano, but he's blind and knows how to. I was always like that was Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And I also can't hear a Ray Charles song with I want to close my eyes and do that the sway back
yeah.
and forth that he does when he's playing, like he's just into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, just
it's a part of
great.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a distinct the harmonies, like the background vocals and that big sound is just he's awesome. Really, really cool. Another dude we could do an entire show on. So you got the Isley Brothers on here. Were they making music in the 50s?
I don't know. I always thought they did because the Beatles covered them and stuff.
They started in the 50s. So, all right, man, let's talk about them. So the Isley Brothers, that was another, you put the Isley Brothers on here and I was like, oh, okay, man, I hadn't really thought about them as being around in the 50s, but they were, dude. So the song Shout came out in the 50s and that was their fourth single. So, all right, so they were around for a while. And
They just had a great rock and roll sound. I mean, they were a great band. They
Yeah.
weren't. They were like they were a band. They weren't like a Temptations.
They
or
were like
something
that when we said like rhythm and blues is rock and roll at the same time, like before it splits off into two separate things, right? Because there are these acts that are like, I don't know, man, it's like soul music. It's not rhythm and blues, it's not Motown. It's got a little bit more like some swagger to it. It's hard. I can't put it into words, but yeah, they're different than like the Temptations.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that like smoothness. It's more just like kick ass.
It's a kick-ass sound.
Yeah.
It's rock and roll more than R&B or anything.
Yeah. You had a song on it, or you had This Old Heart of Mine from the Isley Brothers. It came out a little bit later than the 50s. I think that was in the mid 60s, but it's still an awesome song, man. You kind of get the feel for what they were doing. So that song was actually released on Motown, but that's a great example of the 50s sound coming forward and moving into kind of evolving into something else.
Yeah, you hear the influence of pop music from that song, like even to today.
Yeah.
all those country singers now are using that backbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they, Twist and Shout and This Old Heart of Mine, he said, and It's Your Thing. They wrote a ton of hits. Very cool. Who else we got in here? All right, so I think that's largely... You know what? There are a couple other like odds and ends on here, some songs that we didn't talk about. I got 2 songs. All right, the first one was Rumble by Link Ray.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that at all.
I think we talked about Rumble before.
Did we?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
It's one of those like I know that song. You probably don't know. Yeah, you probably don't know if you hear it.
Yeah.
We can just talk over it, but it's like
Yeah.
the scene
like
in
an
Pulp
old Pulp
Fiction.
Fiction.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we definitely covered this. It's great. It's a great song. I actually just bought a guitar, and this is one of the first things I learned how to play.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it was like I don't know if it's in the Rock and Roll Hall of... he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think maybe the song is, but it's like a really important instrumental because it's one of the first songs to use distortion.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just was thinking of shit when I was
Total
driving down
rock
here.
song. Total influential.
Yeah, really, really cool.
How many guitarists came out of that? Like they heard that.
Influential,
Oh, sure.
right?
Totally.
And then I found one other song that it doesn't fit in the narrative at all. Other than I'd never heard it before, and I really liked it. It's a song called "Please Don't Touch." It's by a band called Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
Okay.
I just thought it was
Johnny
really
Kidd and the Pirates.
What a great
So
name.
the guy had an eye patch and he held a sword.
Sure.
And Alice Cooper called him a big influence because they were like one of the first ones to play some shit. They had another song that the Who covered on the Live at Leeds, and the Who said they're the most important band ever come out of England or something like that. But anyway,
Can we hear it?
yeah, dude, this song I really liked it. I really like the chorus. Here you go.
Well, there ain't no other woman that makes me feel this way. But when she comes up close, well, I just ain't got a word to say. Please don't touch, I shake so much. Please don't touch, I shake so much. Don't you touch me, baby, 'cause I'm shaking so much. Don't you touch me, baby, 'cause I'm shaking so much.
It's 59. I was like, that
yeah,
was really
real.
cool.
Yeah,
It's very psychedelic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really before its time, man.
Yeah. I was like,
That's why the Who said that, and I get it. You know,
I was like, I'd never heard that. Really cool. Like, just, uncovered something different.
and the guy dressed up like a pirate and had a sword in his hand.
When I first saw the picture of him, he had an eye patch. And I'm like, wait, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, and the guy's got an eye patch? And he said, like, no, he wore it as kind of like his shtick.
Did
so.
he was on psychedelics? Like he was one of the first guys on psychedelics.
Yeah, way ahead of his time. Just I was like, 1959. It just made the cut.
That's great.
You know what? And then I guess there's also part of the 50s, too, where music... Well, you know what? So as the 50s start to close down, they start winding down. It's like, and that's the cool part of this story. The interesting part of the story is like that there's like a bow on the end of it, because it was like, within a couple of years, man, it's in my notes. Elvis goes in the army. Buddy Holly dies in a plane crash. Jerry Lee Lewis gets busted for marrying his cousin. Chuck Berry goes to jail. Little Richard becomes a minister. Eddie Cochran dies. And then, so it's like, everybody's here. They all changed everything, and then they're all gone.
Wow.
Like within
Like
a couple
10
years.
years, yeah.
10 years. And then the gap gets filled with all this like pop music kind of swoops in. It's like Bobby Darin. There's also a lot of like novelty songs, like that song like The Purple People Eater. Goofy.
Sure, little goofy stuff.
Yeah, or that the Coasters, like Charlie Brown, he's a clown.
That's,
like, all
that's
that.
a great song, though.
It is a good song. I have that. Let's play a little bit of it.
Fee, fee, fi, fi, fo, fo, fum. I smell smoke in the auditorium. Charlie Brown, he's a clown. That Charlie Brown, he's gonna get gone. Just you wait and see.
Why is everybody always picking on me?
That's him on his knees. I know that's him. Yelling 7,11 down in the boys' gym. Charlie Brown.
And it had like Fabian and Paul Anka and all those other kind of dudes.
Like, what? A lot of this music seems like it's from this coast. What was California doing? Like, is the Everly Brothers from California? Like, it's just something I'm sitting here thinking. Like, a lot of this music we're talking is like kind of like the Bible Belt, and then like Philadelphia, and like of course New York and Cleveland and this and that. What was going on in California? Like, before the Beach Boys came out or whatever, the Wall of Sound.
I don't know.
You know,
The Everly Brothers are from Kentucky and Iowa.
yeah. So like,
I don't know.
Was
Is it
anything
good-
going on in California yet?
I don't know.
You know,
Yeah, I guess I got some homework to do by the next episode. One pop dude that did come out of the 1950s was that I think is cool was Ricky Nelson.
absolutely, Ricky Nelson.
Right,
Great.
he was like big on TV,
Yeah.
right? Like Ozzy and Harry and
Yes.
all that other kind of
But
stuff.
his music was great though.
Yeah, and he was kind of like the good-looking dude in some
safe.
poppy song. Yeah, he was safe,
was
right?
safe.
For 50s, the alternative for like you can like Little Richard to like him,
Yeah.
right? But
He had an edge to him, you know.
Yeah.
He was like the watered down James Dean.
yeah, he's like the safe Eddie Cochran
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, it's a good call. Here's some Waiting in School.
I've been waiting in school all day long, waiting on the bell to ring so I can go home. I throw my books on the table, pick up the telephone. Hello, baby, let's get some going. Heading down to the drugstore to get a soda pop, throw a nickel in the jukebox, then we start to rock. My school cow baby gonna tell you some news. You sure look good in the baby doll shoe. Well, it's a 1, 2, I pull up a shoe. A 3, 4, get out on the floor. 5, 6, come get your kicks down the corner of Lincoln and a 46. Yeah.
But he's super cool though. Like he has such a flow with him and a lot of his music that he just goes. He's got a lot of feeling. You know, I always loved his music, as white bread as he might be, or they perceived him to be.
And his kids were Nelson
awesome.
in the 80s.
After the rain.
But yeah, Ricky Nelson's awesome.
Yeah,
I always enjoy hearing his music.
I always liked him. Another song off the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. I think that's it, man. I think it's the 50s. Is there any other?
1950s.
All right, man. Let's just move on to some music news and some second thoughts. I got 2 stories for music news. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The inductees for the next class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are out, and those people that are going in are Pat Benatar, Duran Duran, Eminem, The Eurythmics, Dolly Parton, Carly Simon. The Early Influence Award are Harry Belafonte and Elizabeth Cotten. And the Musical Excellence Award are Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Judas Priest. And lastly, the Ahmet Ertegun Award is Alan Grubman, Jimmy Iovine, and Sylvia Robinson. By the way, if you want to hear us talk about 10 artists who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we did a whole episode on it.
We did.
I do not understand how Jimmy Iovine is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
He made so many records.
The producer, businessman. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not like Clive
He's
Davis is
genius.
in there. Ahmet Ertegun is
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get it, but
He's getting it now. So
yeah, whatever. I was,
Yeah.
Judas Priest. They kind of threw them the bone that like they threw
It's
LL
about
Cool
time.
J.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's about
yeah,
time.
it's
Heavy
super
metal gets
important. It's
in.
very important for it to happen.
Yeah.
How about them being in before Iron Maiden?
Yeah, and then both of those should deserve to be in,
Yeah.
and then the MC5 and the New York Doll. There's a whole list of all that kind
I
of
think
shit.
this year's pretty weak. Like this year's enlistees or whatever is fucking weak.
Here, just give me your thought. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just the performers. Pat Benatar.
Nobody cares.
Who cares?
I don't care. Duran Duran.
That's a big deal.
I think they.
They're sure they did something.
They had a lot of pop hits. Eminem.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Eurythmics.
Yeah.
I think they should be. I love Annie Lennox. Dolly Parton.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
much as she doesn't want to, they're going to put her in there if she wanted to or not.
Yeah, especially when she said that.
I was like, oh, now you're definitely
Yeah,
going
She's got Hall of Fame titties.
Yeah, Hall of Fame today's. And Carly Simon.
Eh.
Do you know 2 songs by Carly Simon?
I'm so vain.
All right, that's
Yeah.
one. No, right?
Yeah,
Between
yeah,
the 3 of us, we
yeah,
can't do
no.
it.
You're
Right?
so
she's
so
in,
vain.
she's in that Carol King bucket of just kind of like whatever,
Sure.
man. Yeah.
Wah.
Yeah.
Write me another song.
All right, and then the other song, the other news item I had was that Apple discontinued the iPod. So Apple announced it is discontinuing the iPod Touch, which was the only model of the iconic music player that was still available. The original iPod was introduced in 2001 and revolutionized
Wow.
the music industry. They sold 450 million of them. That's how fast
Technology,
right? In 20 years, man, that's obsolete. I mean, I
still have mine. It doesn't
Dude,
work.
I still have mine too.
I want to figure out how I can convert it into something else. I still have it, but it doesn't work. But that hard drive's in there. Like I have thousands of songs.
Mine got to the point that with like all the shit in my iTunes wouldn't fit on it anymore.
Yeah.
And I still have it. I found it in a drawer and I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and I got immediately like people like, I'll drive over right now. It's 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to sell it because I don't know if everything is still on my my computer. Even like, it's just crazy. Like, you went from CDs to that. To like, that's obsolete. The fact that you could carry every piece of music you've ever owned around on something
It was
beside of a
amazing.
deck
It was
of cards.
groundbreaking. It was like my dream come true.
Right. I always had that book of like 100 CDs in my car, and
and as things went on, and Apple, iTunes, everything
changed everything.
dude.
But it's funny you brought up CDs. Some group put out this week, like last week, they put a new album out, and they're just releasing like a big band. Not a band, like a pop band, or just releasing it on a CD. That's the only way you can listen to it. Somebody will download
That's the only
them.
way they could probably make money.
I guess so. But who, like, these kids don't have CD players.
Right.
Like, it's just
They're
kind
gonna
of
get
curious.
one.
Maybe, they're going to start selling this.
My truck doesn't have a CD. I don't have a CD.
My
Yeah,
car
player.
does. Yeah, my car does.
My sound system for my stereo has a
Does
CD
it?
player.
I think I don't know if I have one in my house anywhere. My travel trailer has one in it, but that's it. I don't think I don't really own any more CDs. I sold them all when I moved in with my wife.
Yeah.
Sure.
I got like $100 for like
Thousands and thousands of dollars that you spent.
All I had them all alphabetized and organized and all this shit
What a
that we used to
waste.
get. Yeah,
And now it's on Spotify. Love
or
it.
it's not. Even
a lot of shit's
Yeah.
not.
even iTunes, man. Like, I had the software that it would like you could download like YouTube videos and the audio. So I would go like, I'd watch all these bootlegs. And I would make audio of it. I had all this like cool. I was listening to like the Chris Robinson Brotherhood doing like Sugary the other day. I'm like, I have this on my iTunes somewhere. I'm like, I'm probably never going to fire that up and listen
That's
to
why
it
I want
again.
to keep my iPod. I want to switch it over, man, because I have like a lot of bootlegs on there.
Yeah.
You'll never find again.
Shit that you'll never find. I had like Meticulous, man, like all this Springsteen shit. I was on like the message boards and downloading stuff.
My first iPod was the U2 iPod, so it came with the whole U2 catalog in it
Already on it?
Yeah, shit was awesome, and it was like the memory of the time. I forget how many songs you could put on it, but do you remember when U2 put their iPod out?
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I remember the one that I still have. You play videos on it, and it blew my mind, man. I remember like taking the train in New York, and I'm watching like Mickey Mouse on this
On the little tiny
little
screen.
screen. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. It's crazy just how much that changed everything. And I mean, that was the shit that put like Sam Goody out of business, right? The streaming and digital and Napster and all that shit. And
we
probably a nerd episode on like the rise of Napster or something. It's probably not a very long one, but anyway, I just thought it was interesting that it was like, and Apple's now like for something and that also like brought Apple back from like irrelevancy. Like
what the hell were they
right?
doing?
They were like floundering as a computer company,
They're making toilets for NASA,
right? And now it's like, all right, dude, we're not even going to bother anymore. It's not worth our time.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
That was the beginning of like to the iPhone to what we know
Yeah,
today.
right,
You know what I mean?
right.
It was the
That-
beginning.
The watch, the iWatch,
The watch and all that other-
Fuck.
Right. All right, second thoughts, man. So we got a really long email from longtime listener and kick-ass friend Jackie from Seattle. It's always great to hear from Jackie. And since she lives in Seattle, she had to write us about our Sub Pop episode. So, loves. Thanks for the excellent grunge episode. I enjoyed your memories, stories, and music clips. What a time, huh? It was really special. It was a very special walk down memory lane for me because I was right in the thick of it as a mid-20-something living in downtown Seattle. I can't tell you how exciting it was. My friends and I went to local clubs all the time to see our favorite bands. We saw Tad open for Nirvana one night before Nirvana exploded. My roommate at the time was a t-shirt and poster printer and made tons of local band merch. I was a 12-stepper back then and remember seeing Andy Wood at meetings. The whole downtown Seattle AA scene was devastated when he died. The same when Lane Stanley died. I saw Lane one night in the shopping in the University District Safeway. I remember thinking, what a cool-looking homie, even though, oh my God, he was so pale and thin. So this happened at my boyfriend John's work one day back in the 90s. A seasoned maintenance engineer swung by work, and John escorted him to some more equipment. The man asked John if he knew a band, Alice in Chains. Of course John did. The man screamed, "I'm the Rooster," and told John that he was Jerry Cantrell's father. I kind of love how proud of he was of that. Anywho, my bus to work in downtown goes by Sub Pop headquarters every morning. It's only a few blocks from Bad Animals headquarters. Speaking of bad animals, have you fellows ever considered doing a Seattle episode on the band Heart? I feel like you would kill it. Anywho, part 2, thanks for the great episode. I can't wait for the next one. Love, Jackie in Seattle.
Awesome, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Always awesome to hear from you. We will put Heart on the list. It's a band I don't know almost anything about.
I've seen them. They're good.
Have you?
Yeah, I saw them a couple years ago.
They could wail.
Yeah.
They did some show. I wrote her back and I was like, all right, man, we'll put it in the list.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else other than like kind of like
They wanted to be
they're-
the Led Zeppelin, the girl version of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
that was their goal.
They were very like Renaissance fair early in the career.
Yeah, and I know that hair like
The 70s.
yeah. All I want to do is make a love to you song. Makes me want to. I don't like
Barracuda and all
Yeah,
that, man.
yeah,
They
and,
killed it. They killed it.
They did some stuff with Alice in Chains too.
They did.
Did
Like
they?
yeah, after Lane Stanley died, they did some shit.
That
It was
must
like
be fucking
sounds
spooky
weird
as
as
shit.
shit, right? But it was pretty cool.
When they
So-
got inducted to the Hall of Fame, dude, they had like half of Pearl Jam backing them up, half of Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, like all these guys were like fucking
Yeah.
playing with Heart, dude, and they killed it. It was
We'll-
awesome.
We'll put it on the list, dude. We'll talk about anybody. All right, man. So the next we're going to do the electric chair. The electric chair is a segment that we've been doing since the Sun Records episode, where we kill a song because we think it sucks. And Ryan, you said you got to pick this week. You're on a roll, man, with these
Dude,
ideas.
I don't know. I just hate cheesy women. I hate them, and I think Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks is nothing but cheese.
Oh, Landslide from Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, everything about them, everything about her. Ugh,
It's just been overplayed. Like
makes me want to shoot myself.
Yeah.
Remember when Smashing
I was gonna
Pumpkins
say
did this?
that. Yeah. I didn't even like it when they did
I
it.
don't like that version.
Yeah.
To my love, took it down.
Bruce is like, I love this song.
This song I could do without.
I do love her voice though, but I'm over this song for the last like million years.
I do like some Fleetwood Mac stuff. I had tickets to see them one time. I didn't get to go because I was in Texas for work, and I'm like, I have to be home in like 5 hours to get to the show, and
Right. That's not gonna happen.
I just sold them on. I was out of town for work or something.
God, people probably hate me for saying let's kill a Fleetwood Mac song.
No,
Well, it's just a song. I agree with this song. They have better songs than this.
I said before that I wanted to do a like Dysfunction Junction, like them versus the Mamas and the Papas, because I mean Fleetwood Mac, they're all fucking
Oh,
each other,
yeah.
and they're all
God.
like
I don't know. I think the Mama and Papas
They
would
were
win
all
this.
doing
They were
the
all
same thing.
right. I mean, just like, and you were like, "I'll be on vacation that day" or
I will.
something. But
I will.
all right, you got any more hate you want to dump on him while it's still playing?
No,
I don't
Stevie
wanna-
Nicks, man, she did more cocaine than that guy in Blow. I don't know.
She's got a great voice, but I do agree. She she used, in my opinion, she used Jimmy Iovine. She used him. She used Tom Petty. She used her sexuality. She got what she wanted.
She's a woman.
They're a band that I don't know, like
She
whatever.
can sing. She has a
there's
beautiful
5
voice,
of them,
though.
and it seems like there's at any given time there's only 4 of them in because
Yeah.
somebody's not in the band.
Yeah.
Other than Mick Fleetwood. Mick Fleetwood just seems kind of like
He's just happy.
He's
to
the
be there.
luckiest guy in the
I
world.
don't give a fuck. I want to play my
He's
drums.
not
and
even a
lives
good
in that,
drummer.
He lives in that estate in Hawaii.
He doesn't
or
even play
something.
drums on this song.
He
This song's
sucks.
huge.
Right.
He's not even a good drummer.
All right.
All right,
Kill it.
all right.
We sentence you to death.
Yeah.
It's an interesting pick, my friend. I
Yes.
feel like we should have like a tombstone. Like we Photoshop all these artists. Other than like the electric chair episode we did was like too long.
No, we need a ride like the Disney Haunted Mansion.
the ghost,
The ghost of the rock and roll
all the ghosts that come
prisoners.
like
Yeah.
right.
The prisoners of rock and ghosts.
Stevie Nicks tries to chase you and like snort you through her nose or something. And like the ride goes like through her nose, like the hole in her nose where the coke was. Oh my god. Okay. Well, this was fun, man. I
Yeah, it was
enjoyed this.
good.
Yeah,
It's a good episode.
1950s, everything. Yeah, right on.
stuff,
we'll
man.
have to figure out what the next episode
Yeah.
was going to be.
Yeah. All right. So that's a wrap on episode 41 and the 1950s. But if you want to hear more of all that great music, man, we put together a Spotify playlist for every episode, and there's a link in the show notes. You can also get more of us by following us on your podcast platform. You can check us out on social media. You can go to our website at prisonersofrockandroll.com, or you can drop us an email like Jackie did at prisonersofrockandroll@gmail.com. There's a link to all of that in the show notes as well. And thanks to everybody who's been checking us out. We'll be back in 2 weeks with some more insight and entertainment. I don't think we quite know what we're going to do next, but we're going to figure it out as we're packing up and get ready to go. So I think that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Keep on rocking.
Peace out.
Just a prisoner!